Corey, I do want to shift gears and get your take on another thing. The Republican Party, the president, fundraising off the issue of civility and Maxine Waters, talking about the comment that Maxine Waters made that Democrats should push back, should confront her in public, in protest. Do you think the Republican Party should be fundraising off of this?
Well, I think what they talked about also in that fundraiser, as you know, is the abuse that Sarah Huckabee Sanders took, and now we see that because of that abuse, it looks like she'll be provided on a temporary basis Secret Service protection to make sure her and her family are safe, and I think that's a sad state of affairs.
She was asked to leave a restaurant. Okay, she was asked. She was asked to leave a restaurant.
Okay,
You're
tell
talking
the
about
whole story. Tell the whole story. What happened after she left the restaurant?
She left the restaurant, and she
and
went,
then
to,
what happened,
she went
John?
to another restaurant.
And then what happened with the owner of the previous
She went to another restaurant. I
and
know Sarah
happened?
and her father say that the owner followed her across the street.
So are you calling them liars?
I don't know. I do not know what happened after.
You're saying her and her father are being dishonest.
Look, I know she has Secret Service protection today, Corey. I also know she was asked to leave a restaurant. I also know.
So why would they have Secret Service protection, John, if there wasn't a credible threat?
I also know, Corey, that the President of the United States, if we're talking about civility and we're talking about threats, let me just read you some of the things he has said out loud at rallies. Knock the crap out of him. Just knock the hell out of him. I promise you I'd pay his legal fees. I'd like to punch him in the face. I would have been boom, boom, boom. So,
John, do you think it's okay that Sarah Sanders has to have Secret Service protection because credible threats against her? Do you think that's fair as a government employee?
I leave that up to the Secret Service as to what they do. That is a Secret Service decision, and they should make it.
They wouldn't make that decision.
I'm talking about
John,
the
they
issue.
wouldn't make that decision unless there was a credible threat.
I'm asking Corey about the issue of civility in this country.
That is the civility issue.
And I'm asking about the president's role in the civility in this country. And when the president has physically threatened people from the podium before, is that not the same thing? Or worse than asking someone to leave a restaurant?
Look, if we're talking about what Maxine Waters said, if we're talking about words that have been used, clearly there's a problem in the country and it's only getting worse. And I think it's shameful that a government employee who's out just trying to do their job with their family is not only asked to leave a restaurant, but then followed to the next restaurant and heckled again. And we've seen it not on one occasion now, but on multiple occasions. We've seen it with Secretary Nielsen of the Homeland Security Department. We've seen it with Stephen Miller at his residence.
Is it okay, Corey, if your concern about personal safety goes that far, is it okay for a presidential candidate to threaten someone at a rally?
John, when did this happen? When did this happen, John?
So it's okay? It's okay
No, John, I'm asking you, when did the president make these comments, and when did Maxine Waters make the comments?
He made them for months and months during the campaign.
John, when?
And yesterday.
John, you have the paper in front of you.
Yesterday, I don't have the dates when he made them, but he made them for
months
and months during the campaign.
And Corey, also, yesterday, have your facts before you present something to me, John, because here's the difference. Maxine Waters made these comments 48 hours ago when Sarah Huckabee asked to leave.
And then 24 hours ago, President Trump said, you better be careful, Max, which sounds like as much of a threat as Maxine Waters made, if not more.
Yeah,
he's a government official.
That's right. Maxine Waters has now been referred to the Ethics Committee for further review for her comments about pushing back on government employees. Have you mentioned that to the viewers today, John?
We've talked a lot about Maxine Waters
and her,
on this show.
review to the Ethics Committee.
We have talked a lot about Maxine Waters on this show and whether or not that was the appropriate thing. Corey,
so do you believe that as a member of Congress, her ethics is in accord with what it should be for a member of Congress? And do you believe the review of the Ethics Committee is appropriate?
I don't like anyone threatening anything. I will leave it up to others to interpret. If she was threatening someone when she said people should push back, I think also it's not much interpretation needed when the president says he would go boom, boom, boom or punch them in the face.
So do you think the Ethics Committee should review Maxine Waters?
Do I think the Ethics Committee?
Yes.
It's not my decision, Corey. It's
well,
not
of course
my
it's
decision.
Not your decision, but I'm asking you a question, John.
And if they do, Corey, they'll look at it. I think they will weigh it versus other things, and they'll weigh it versus the rhetoric that we're hearing in this country right now.
Should she be held accountable for threatening government employees?
Corey,
that's the question.
I want to... Threatening. If you think that's what she did, did the president of the United States?
Let's play her clip. You have it. You've played it many times.
Did the president threaten a government employee when he said, "Be careful, Max"?
No, I think being careful is not a threat, but ask if she threatened government employees.
Sounds like something a mob boss would say. Better be careful. Wouldn't want anything to happen to you.
You have the videotape.
Wouldn't want anything to happen to you. Corey, let me ask you.
He didn't say that.
Let me ask. He said, "Be careful." It could be interpreted easily as that type of thing.
Unlike what she said, which was a clear indication.
We're talking about civility in this country, and I think you and I can both agree that there's a lot of responsibility to go all over the place when it comes to being more civil in this country. And you've come up in this discussion over the last week as well. Do you regret anything you have said on television, for instance, last week when you said womp womp in that discussion about a child with Down syndrome? Do you regret
John,
threat. Do you wish you said that differently? No, but I'm asking you now. I'm asking you now. And you didn't say you were sorry about it when you were asked before. Do you regret that you said that?
John, here's what I said. That was not directed at a child who was not separated by her mother because of the government policies. That's not what it was. And the notion that the individual who said that was inaccurate was never corrected.
Do you wish you hadn't said it? Do you wish you hadn't said it?
John, if you'd like, John, would you like me to answer the question, or do you want to have the interview by yourself? Because I was trying to talk, and you keep talking over me.
Well, Corey, go ahead. Do you wish you hadn't said it?
Okay, let me know how much time I have so I can answer your questions. Or if you want to keep talking over me, we'll just stop. It's up to you.
Corey, do you regret answering that question?
If you'd let me answer the question.
Go.
Great. So, John, what I said was the incident that was discussed was not directed at any child or individual. It was directed at a left-wing activist who was trying to use a child as a political tool, and he was inaccurate because he said that child was separated from her mother because of the Trump policies. But the truth was that 10-year-old that was separated at the border was separated because her mother was a member or a potential member of a child smuggling ring.
Okay,
so
Corey,
let's get the facts straight.
I'll let you talk. All I was asking whether or not you thought that womp womp was the right response to that. I just wanted to know if you had any regrets about it now. Is the answer no?
No, John, the answer is it wasn't directed at a child. My statement on that specifically was directed at a left-wing Democrat activist who's trying to use a child as a political tool, and I was appalled by that.
I was just trying to understand what womp womp, how that relates to that specific thing, and whether you had regrets. You traveled with the president this weekend. Did he bring that up at all? Did he have any concerns that you said that?
John, I don't, like you, I don't discuss private conversations I may or may not have with elected officials.
Let me ask you about this judge, T.S. Ellis, the judge from Virginia that the president himself has called a very special thing. That's what the president referred to as T.S. Ellis. Ellis decided that the case against Paul Manafort can proceed in Virginia. This judge is someone who's been held up by conservatives and supporters of the president as someone who had been very fair because he questioned the special counsel's case. Now the judge says, go ahead, Robert Mueller. You can go ahead and charge Paul Manafort. Your reaction?
Look, my reaction is not only is that one judge saying that, but a second judge has said that, and I believe it's a judge in the District of Columbia. From what we've seen is Mr. Manafort and his legal team appealed the ruling to be incarcerated to the district court, the circuit court in Washington, D.C., and that case is now pending. But as far as it stands, both federal judges have said that there are ample charges against Mr. Manafort that can continue.
And they will continue. Corey Lewandowski, I do appreciate you coming on this morning. Always a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so a lot there. I mean, the issue of civility, I'm not sure we move the ball very far forward on that. There does seem to be two different interpretations about who it should apply to. And I will say on immigration also, and when on, on immigration, Corey, who does not work for the government, there is no explanation for why these children have not been reunited with their parents.
No.
No, but that was a master class in whataboutism. Master class actually elevates it too much. That was simply an insistence on civility for thee, but not for me. And when it came to immigration policy as well, a degree of deflection, but no assumption of responsibility for solving the problem on the part of the president or the government. He's not a member of the government. That's fair. He is an advisor to the president, though. Has he advised the president to actually put forward or back a specific immigration plan to help solve this problem? Because the constant fixation on Maxine Waters and Sarah Sanders is designed to absolve himself and the president of any culpability for their incivility.
As we